I was raising money for the banker's cottage down at Rock Springs 4-H Ranch. And so my boss at the time, Kent Culbertson, told me, I asked him what he thought he would give. And he said, well, where are you going today? And I said, well, I'm going to Logan and on out to Oberlin and back and try to get everybody covered. And that time, then I'll need to go south some. The territory they assigned me. And so he said, tell you what I'll do, I'll just match whatever Jim Baird gives. And Jim was president of First National Bank over Logan at the time, and he was known to be a little bit tight. And so went in, I was talking to Mr. Baird, and I said, he asked me what thought should give, and I said, well, we'd like to have, at least $500. And so he said, well, yeah, that might be all right. So about that time, here came Mr. Hansen, and he said, he always called me young CI. And he said, young CI, what are you doing over here? And I said, well, I'm trying to get some money off of Jim. He said, what for? And I said, well, the banker's cottage down at that we're going to build down at Rock Springs. And so he said, Jim, what are you going to give him? And Jim said, I thought about 500. Oh, he said, that isn't enough. He said, what do you need, Si? And I said, well, we're going to cost about $26,000. And he said, well, that's a good cause, Jim. I think you ought to give $3,000. Old Jim just about fell through the floor, of course. And so he gave me a check for $3,000, and I went on my way around and came back, and I went into Kent Culbertson, and when I got back, and he said, well, how'd you do? And I said, I did pretty good today. And he said, what'd you get, $1,000? Oh, I said, I got more than that. And he said, well, what did Jim Baird give you? And I said, well, Mr. Hansen came in about the time he was divvying up and gave me $3,000. And I laid the check out. He just about went through the floor too, so that's how I knew Mr. Hansen.
When the Boy Scouts back then would come to Mr. Hansen for a donation, I can just see him in my mind, these little kids coming in and asking for money, and well, how much are you supposed to get? Have you talked to everybody you needed to talk to, or you're planning on talking to? No. So he'd say, well, you do your job, and when you get done, then you come back and see me. So he would make them work for it. But if they were still short, then he would make up the difference. And so he was always very, very good with kids.
I think because like with the Boy Scouts or any of that kind of stuff that had to do with kids and growing up and stuff like that, Dane was very strong. Just a real good Christian man, and he loved his country.
Becoming well known was not an effort of his. He did what he did because he wanted to do it, and everything he did was, I think, as far as I know, always positive. He was politically active. He was active and generous, and he did it the way he would do it without asking how to do it or asking permission to do it. If we could duplicate him, we would.